Everyone. So I get to do my own invader spotlights, except because I get to take however much time I want. I get more slides than a single slide. It's totally fine if your invader spotlight and some of my invader spotlights overlap. It's always helpful to hear about the same thing a couple of times. It reinforces some of the problems. So invader spotlight on this bonus content species of the day is the Burmese python. Super cute when it's a tiny little python, right? So why do these species get over here? Burmese python comes from South Asia, but they are invasive in the Everglades in southern Florida. So how do they get to southern Florida? Well, python is really cute when it's little and fits in your hand, not so cute when it's 18 feet long and is eating you out of house and home. And so these are a pet trade introduction where the snakes either escape or are released and into the wild because they're no longer wanted. And then in the Florida Everglades, because the Everglades are similar climatically to the tropical and subtropical regions where this snake is native, they were able to establish, spread, and have impact. So why do they have so much impact? Well, the biggest reason is that pythons eat basically anything that they can fit in their mouth. So again, a gape-limited species. Here are a couple of pictures of that. The alligator one, it had a digestive failure, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I guess, since the snake and alligator led to both of their demise in that case. So pythons eat everything, both large and small. And their populations have been growing a lot. So these are from surveys of numbers of pythons removed from the Everglades. This is only through 2010. So this is from a paper by Dorcas et al. In 2012, which is on the next slide. And so basically the first pythons were kind of identified, some snakes that are not from Florida in the mid 1990s, and then that population has kind of skyrocketed from there. So there was this great paper by Dorcas et al. So et al. Just means and others in fancy Latin. In 2012 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And what they did was they had two different surveys. So one of the ways that conservationists, that wildlife biologists actually understand the state of populations of wildlife is by doing roadkill surveys. So driving around and seeing what's been killed by being hit by cars gives you a sense of the population of the species that are actually out there. So that was what was done here. So first they had an older roadkill survey that was done in the early 1990s. And in this survey, the roadkill counts were based on over 6,000 kilometers of road that was driven between 1993 and 1999. And based on that, they had, say 250 plus raccoons that were found lots of rodents, rabbits, possum, raccoons, foxes, coyotes, bobcats, panthers, and deer that had been hit by cars. The coyote and panther are non-zero numbers, but close enough to zero that they're hard to see on here. So 6,000 kilometers of road driven in the 1990s. They then repeated that survey in the 2000s, so between 2003 and 2011. And they had a much larger sample size, so about 10 times as much road distance traveled. And the red, which you can barely even see, so the last slide, these blue bars are the same as the green bars on this slide, the same little icons in the bottom to indicate what type of species. The red bars that you can barely see are the ones that are current roadkill, or 2003 to 2011 roadkill in the Everglades in Florida. Everglades National Park is what ENP means there. So this is now standardized in terms of roadkill per 100 kilometers. So raccoons, there used to be three raccoons killed for every 100 kilometers. Now there's basically zero. Same thing for opossums, same thing for deer. And they're attributing this entirely to the growth of pythons in the Everglades. So basically, why don't you see any of these species anymore as roadkill? Because there are no more of those species to kill. They've all been eaten by pythons. So pretty dramatic evidence of major impact from a predator, an invasive predator that is obviously having pretty large effects on the mammal and probably the reptile and amphibian communities as well in the Florida Everglades. So thanks for tuning in for this Invader Spotlight on the Burmese python.